What's up, meta nerds? This video is all about the Kowakian Monkey-Lizard. And yes, that's the real name for this freaky little creature from the planet Kowak. There is actually debate on whether these are sentient or not, with there being some cases which we'll talk about where they were definitely sentient, but most put them in the semi-sentient category. And remember, Star Wars classifications are kind of simplistic and a little bit misleading in that the intelligence isn't on a spectrum, but you just have non-sentient things like bugs, semi-sentient things that are kind of like dogs, and sentient species being those that at least have the intelligence of humans. They are reptiles, whose long, thin limbs and tail allowed it to quickly travel through the rainforest on its homeworld. These big ears gave it great hearing, though these would often be pierced and decorated with many earrings. This large triangular head contained this wide, toothless mouth with this hard, bird-like beak right above it. Hinting at their rainforest origins, like the birds and reptiles we might find in the Amazon here on Earth, many had combinations of red, green, blue, yellow, and brown, with these colors being used in different patterns across different monkey lizards. They also had tufts of hair on the top of their head and around their cheeks and neck, which could also vary in color wildly. For climbing and grabbing prey, they had these long fingers and toes, 3 on each limb, which ended in these razor-sharp talons. Usually they could just scoop up insects and worms with that large mouth, but it could also use those claws to capture small mammals and other reptiles. Many who studied the species have noted, however, that most Kowakians would just scavenge, picking off the meat from corpses that they come across, preferring to leave the act of hunting to larger predatory animals. This also affected their society, as many would forage through the forest in groups, but when they found a corpse, they would often fight with each other, leaving the weakest monkey lizard to eat last. But being in a group was still advantageous, as they could easily scare off much larger predators, and by using their terrible cackling laugh in concert, they were scarier than any beast in the jungle. This evolutionary advantageous laugh, selected for monkey lizards that enjoyed pranks, with the daily routine of the Kowakians including various forms of mischief, mocking each other, and partaking in all kinds of physical humor. Now, a complicated ability of this species is their skills in various forms of language. It is said that they could perfectly repeat almost every form of speech, which might make you think that they are like some birds from Earth. But the tricky part is that they were said to be able to communicate in these languages, which in those cases I believe that they should be considered more intelligent than what their semi-sentient status would suggest. And if they didn't learn a language outright, they were good enough to understand cues, to the point where they were always able to laugh at the right part of a joke. And then we have their ability with tools, as many of them might attack larger prey, like humans, with all kinds of different melee weapons. They normally lived in these large tree nests, and displayed behavior that showed they enjoyed playing and swinging through the trees. Kowakians had a hierarchical organization, with the oldest female being the leader of each tree nest group. The clan mother would divide up the workforce if needed, selecting the hunters, scouts, and builders of these large tree nests. These things have never been witnessed copulating, but researchers believe that the females would all lay their eggs around the same time of year, and that only a few of them actually survived to hatch. Newborns would stay up in the nest, and eventually would grow to a height of 0.7 meters, or about 2¼ feet tall, making them just barely taller than Yoda, and a third of the height of Chewbacca. There isn't much known about their history, and they didn't have any real impact on galactic events. And one of the only studies on them in the wild ended in disaster. University of Coruscant zoologists once tried to embed themselves in the rainforest, watching them from a distance, and tried to get the Kowakians used to their presence. They were nice to the monkey lizards, even offering them food, but were met with hostility and pranks. One Kowakian placed a snake in a researcher's bag. They ran through their living quarters making a mess of everything, and took all their water up into the trees, and dumped it on researchers as they walked by. At first, the only ones to leave Kowak were those that wandered onto visiting ships, and the oddity of this species was admired by some wealthy collectors of exotic animals, but their resistance to training, constant pranks on guests, and destruction of priceless art and collectibles got many of them sold. I'm sure that terrible laugh didn't help too much either. These traits made it so that calling someone a Kowakian Monkey-Lizard was one of the nastiest insults in the galaxy, and eventually they were only seen amongst the disreputables like pirates and the Hutts. There was Gibberus Crumb, who chose to live with the crime lord Nairama, and Pilf Muck, who lived with the pirate gang led by Hondo Ohnaka. His want for mischief made him a valuable asset, earning his keep by sneaking into small spaces, and manning things like the WLO-5 speeder tank, a great way to make a living and have some monkey lizard fun along the way. One of Gibarus's relatives, Salacious B. Crumb, was the Kowakian we saw in the role of court jester in Jabba's palace. His only job was to make sure that he could make Jabba laugh at least once a day. He was good at his job, and stayed in the palace for over 4 years, creating many enemies with his practical jokes. But one of the most unique members of this species is Picaroon C. Boodle. He was the only known Force-sensitive member of this species, and like most of his kind, he was an assistant to a smuggler until the day that they encountered the Empire, and this companion was confiscated in fear that he had rabies. The Imperial scientists recognized that he was Force-sensitive, a remarkable discovery that made Pic one of the most sought-after research subjects. Under Project Chubar, Palpatine wanted to alter the genetics of semi-sentient beings in order to make them more intelligent. This project was successful in combining the essence of Pic with that of a Gamorrean, resulting in a Sith spawn with some of the traits of both. They fought for Jarek's group of 7 Dark Jedi, before eventually being killed by Kyle Katarn. Well, that's it for the Kowakian Monkey-Lizard, and the only behind-the-scenes facts that we have is that Salacious B. Crumb was a puppet in Return of the Jedi, and his species would not be named until 1990 in the book Galaxy Guide 5, Return of the Jedi, and later works, for no apparent reason, switched up its original name, the Kowakian Lizard Monkey, to Monkey-Lizard as it's known today. But that's it for the Kowakian Monkey-Lizard. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you want to check out our social media, or ways that you can help support this channel, be sure to check out the description down below. If you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications. But more important than all that, remember, Kowakians have, without a doubt, the best names in the galaxy, and the Force will be with you, always.